The morning sun broke through the clouds. The rain had stopped, but the forest was still wet. Water dripped from leaves and steam rose from the ground. Han stepped out of the cave and breathed the fresh air. "It's going to be a clear day," he said to the others inside. Juwan was checking their supplies. "We have food for maybe 2 more days. Then we need to reach a town." Bora was helping Mira adjust her suit. The alien scientist had struggled through the night. Earth's changing temperatures were hard on her body. "The real problem is that we can't hide forever," said Bora. "Sooner or later, Sorrel will find us." "We need help," said Han suddenly. "We need to tell people what's happening." Mira looked alarmed. "More humans? That would cause panic." "Not if we do it right," said Han. He pulled out his phone. "No signal here, but if we reach higher ground, I might get enough to send a message." "To who?" asked Juwan. "The military. Government. They'll take over and treat Mira, just like Sorrel wants to treat us." "I have friends at the university," said Han. "Scientists who will understand. If we can show them that aliens are real and peaceful, they can help us talk to the right people." What none of them knew was that they were already too late. During the night, a hiker on a nearby trail had seen strange lights in the sky. The hiker had taken videos of Captain Sorrel's ship hovering over the forest. By morning, those videos were all over the internet. In Seoul, government officials were meeting in emergency sessions. In Washington, Beijing, and Moscow, military leaders were reviewing satellite data. Across the world, people were asking the same question: are we being invaded? News reports showed the blurry videos. Experts argued about whether they were real or fake. Some people packed their cars and fled cities, fearing an alien attack. Others gathered in parks and open spaces, hoping to see the visitors from space. Park Director Lee sat in his small office near the mountains, looking at the reports on his computer. As head of the national park where the alien ship had been seen, he was receiving calls from reporters, government officials, and curious tourists. "Yes, we have search teams in the area," he told a government official on the phone. "No, we haven't found anything unusual yet." After hanging up, he looked at the map on his wall. The sightings had been in a remote section of the park. If there really were aliens there, he needed to find them before panicked civilians or trigger-happy military units did. He picked up the radio. "All search teams, be advised. Approach any unusual findings with caution. Report directly to me. Do not engage." In orbit above Earth, Commander Tarek watched the humans' global communications with growing alarm. Their primitive internet was easy for the ship's computers to access. He could see how quickly information was spreading. "This is a disaster," he said to his officers. "Captain Sorrel has exposed our presence to the entire planet." "The humans seem divided in their response," noted one officer. "Some are afraid, but many seem curious or even excited." "That won't last," said Tarek. "Look at their military communications. They're mobilizing forces. They think we're a threat." "Aren't we?" asked another officer. "Captain Sorrel says these humans are dangerous death-world creatures. Perhaps we should treat them as a threat." Tarek shook his head. Mira's reports before she went missing said they were peaceful, curious, like us. He made a decision. "Send a message to Captain Sorrel. He is authorized to use non-lethal weapons to retrieve our people, but no harm is to come to the humans." "And if the humans attack first?" Tarek looked at the blue planet turning below them. "Then may the stars help us all." Back in the forest, Han had climbed a tall rock to check his phone. To his surprise, he had a signal, but what he saw on the screen made his heart sink. "Everyone," he called down to the others. "We have a problem." He showed them the news reports about the alien sightings, videos of ships, government statements, military movements. "And look at these military updates," said Juwan, taking the phone. "They're sending helicopters and special forces into the park. They think it's an invasion." Mira looked at the humans with her 4 sad eyes. I have failed my mission completely. Now both our peoples are at risk. No, said Han firmly. We can still fix this. We can show everyone that peaceful contact is possible. He looked at his friends. But we need to move fast before the soldiers find us, human or alien. Jiwan pointed to the map on Han's phone. There's a research station about 5 kilometers from here. It's used to monitor wildlife. It will have communication equipment, supplies, and it's marked on official maps. If we can get there, we can contact both your people and ours, he said to Mira. A beam of light appeared from Commander Tarek's ship. The tall, thin alien leader materialized on the ground between the two groups. He wore no armor, only a simple blue uniform with small lights that blinked on the chest. His 4 eyes took in the scene. Human soldiers on one side, his own people on the other, and a small group caught in the middle. Captain Thorl, said Tarek, his voice firm but calm. Lower your weapons. Commander, protested Thorl, these Death World creatures are dangerous. They have corrupted our science team. I said lower your weapons, repeated Tarek. That is an order. Reluctantly, Thorl signaled his soldiers to lower their weapons. Tarek then turned to the human special forces. Human soldiers, he said, his translator making his voice sound almost musical in Korean. I am Commander Tarek of the Galactic Federation. We come in peace. Please lower your weapons as well. The human commander hesitated, then spoke into his radio. After a moment, he nodded to his men. Slowly, the human soldiers lowered their guns. Thank you, said Tarek. He looked at Han, Bora, Juwan, Mira, and Zell standing together. Now I would like to hear what happened from those who were there from the beginning. For the next hour, they all talked. Han and Mira explained how they had met by accident. Bora described their peaceful exchange of information. Juwan showed how humans could work with aliens by helping Zell, who had been injured during his escape. The young alien scientist could barely walk in Earth's gravity, so Juwan carried him to a comfortable place to sit. Commander Tarek watched this with great interest. Captain Xorl looked disgusted. Commander, said Xorl, can't you see? They're primitives living on a death trap of a planet. They're dangerous by nature. What I see, said Tarek thoughtfully, is that they have helped our people when they could have harmed them. I see strength being used to carry, not to hurt. As they talked, more ships arrived. Human helicopters bringing government officials. Soon the clearing was full of people. Soldiers, scientists, government agents, and news reporters who had somehow found the location. Han realized this was their chance. With everyone watching, he stepped forward. Commander Tarek, Captain Xorl, and all humans here today, he said loudly, look at what's happening. 2 completely different species from different worlds are talking instead of fighting. Yes, Earth is dangerous to you. And yes, your technology is far beyond ours. But that doesn't make either of us better or worse, just different. Bora joined him. We evolved on a planet that would kill most aliens. That made us physically strong. But we also learned to work together to help each other survive. That's not a threat. It's a gift we can share. Tarek nodded slowly. Perhaps that is why your species intrigues me. You evolved on a death world, yet you developed cooperation rather than just becoming more aggressive. Most species from harsh worlds become predators. You became something else. One of the human government officials stepped forward. A woman in a neat blue suit. Commander Tarek, I am Minister Park of South Korea. I have been authorized to speak for Earth's nations. We wish to establish peaceful contact with your federation. Tarek turned to his officers and spoke in his own language. Then he faced the humans again. Minister Park, I accept your offer. The initial assessment of Earth as a death world was correct, but incomplete. It is also a world of remarkable life, adaptation, and intelligence. He looked at Mira, who smiled at her commander. Then he looked at Xorl, who stood stiffly but remained silent. Captain Xorl will return to our ship, continued Tarek. I will remain to establish formal contact protocols. And Science Officer Mira will serve as our chief advisor on human affairs, since she has first-hand experience with your remarkable species. 1 year later, Han stood on the observation deck of the Galactic Federation station orbiting Earth. Through the window, he could see his blue-green home planet spinning below. Beside him stood Bora, now Earth's chief scientific liaison to the Federation. The silver ship moved slowly through the dark space. Commander Tarek stood by the large window, his 4 eyes fixed on the blue-green planet ahead. His thin body was covered in pale scales that shimmered under the ship's lights. "Sir, we have completed the scan of planet E3, said Officer Lim, her voice soft but clear. "The results are concerning." Tarek turned to look at the screen. The numbers made no sense. How could anything live there? "This cannot be right," he said. "Check again." Officer Lim touched the screen with her long fingers. "I have checked 3 times, sir. The planet has high gravity, an oxygen-rich atmosphere that would be toxic to most galactic species, extreme temperature changes, and dangerous radiation from its star. And yet," Tarek looked back at the planet, "and yet it is full of life." Lim finished. "Millions of species, including one that has built cities, machines, and even primitive space vessels." Tarek felt a mix of fear and wonder. In all his years exploring for the Galactic Federation, he had never seen creatures that could live in such harsh conditions. "Prepare a small team," he ordered. "We will study these humans from a safe distance. No contact." In Seoul, South Korea, Dr. Han Do-jun yawned as he looked at the computer screen. The small room was filled with equipment he had built himself: screens, dishes, and a radio telescope on the roof. Coffee cups were scattered everywhere. He had been working for 20 hours straight. Just as he was about to go to bed, a strange sound came from his speakers, a pattern. Not random noise. Not from Earth. Han sat up straight, suddenly wide awake. He played the recording again. The pattern was clear, a series of pulses that could not have come from any known Earth source. He reached for his phone and dialed quickly. "Do you know what time it is?" A sleepy voice answered. "Bora, I found something," Han said, his voice shaking with excitement. "You need to come see this now." Dr. Kim Bora arrived 30 minutes later, her dark hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. She wore jeans and an old university sweater, having dressed in a hurry. "This better be good," she said as she walked into Han's apartment. Then she saw his face, the wide eyes, the nervous smile. "What is it?" Han played the recording. Bora listened carefully, her eyes growing wider with each second. "That's not one of ours," she whispered. "Not a satellite, not a plane, not a military signal." "No," Han agreed. "It's coming from above our atmosphere, but it's not from any known human source." The 2 scientists looked at each other. They had dreamed of this moment since they were students. "We should tell someone," Bora said after a long silence. Han shook his head. "Not yet. We need more data. If we're wrong, we'll look like fools. And if we're right, Han looked out his window at the night sky. Everything changes. High in the mountains outside Seoul, a small ship landed silently. Its surface bent light around it, making it nearly invisible. Inside, Science Officer Mira checked her protective suit one last time. "Remember," she told her team of 4, "this planet is extremely dangerous. The gravity will make you feel heavy. The air will burn your lungs. Even the water contains minerals that could harm us." The team nodded, their faces serious behind their clear masks. "We observe only." The small camp felt strange with both humans and aliens sitting together. Han had set up a simple tent while Juwan built a fire. The aliens watched the fire with great concern. "You create controlled burning, just for warmth?" asked Mira, keeping a safe distance from the flames. On her world, fire was only used in sealed containers for specific industrial purposes. For warmth, cooking, and light, said Han. He held his hands toward the fire. Don't you use fire on your planet. Fire is too dangerous to use in the open, said Taro, another alien scientist. The atmosphere of our world has much less oxygen than yours. Here, fire burns too easily. Bora poured hot water into cups. Would you like to try some tea? It's a drink we make from plants. The aliens looked at each other nervously. Zell, the youngest, nodded. I will try your tea. Bora handed him a cup. The alien held it carefully and sniffed. His 4 eyes blinked rapidly. It has such a strong smell, he said. He took a tiny sip and immediately made a strange sound. It has plant chemicals and minerals from your water. Is it bad? Asked Bora, concerned. Not bad, just strong, said Zell. His skin had changed color slightly, becoming more pink. Mira checked Zell with a small device. Your body is having a mild allergic reaction. Nothing serious. Han watched with fascination. So our normal food and drink could be dangerous to you. Most things on your planet are dangerous to us, said Mira. The gravity is 1.4 times stronger than our home world. Your air has too much oxygen. Your water has minerals we cannot process. Your sun produces radiation that harms our skin. Yet you look mostly like us, said Juwan. 2 arms, 2 legs, a head. You're smaller and thinner, but our basic shape is the same. Life throughout the galaxy often follows similar patterns, explained Mira. But the details depend on each planet's conditions. You evolved to be strong because your world demanded strength. The humans shared their food with each other, while the aliens ate special food from their packs. They talked for hours as night fell. The aliens asked many questions. You really sleep for 8 hours? Asked Taro, amazed, completely unconscious. Yes, said Han. Don't you sleep? We rest in short periods of about 20 minutes, said Mira. Being unconscious for hours would be too dangerous on most worlds. And you can eat both plants and animals? Asked Zell, watching Juwan eat a sandwich. Your body can process so many different foods. Most humans can, said Bora, though some have allergies to specific foods. Amazing, said Mira. Your digestive system must be incredibly complex. On the ship orbiting Earth, Commander Tarek paced nervously. It had been hours since he last heard from Mira's team. The storm had blocked communications, and now he feared the worst. Any response to our signals? He asked the communications officer. No, sir. Still nothing. Tarek made a difficult decision. Contact Captain Sorrel. Tell him to prepare a military extraction unit. The communications officer looked surprised. Sir, that's against protocol for a scientific mission. Captain Sorrel is known to be aggressive toward primitive species. I know, said Tarek, but Mira's team might be in danger. These humans live on a death world. Who knows what they might do to our people? Back at the camp, the mood had become friendly. The aliens were showing the humans their technology, devices for measuring, communicating, and recording. Han and Bora were fascinated. This is incredible, said Han, looking at a small device that could analyze the chemical makeup of anything it scanned. Your science is so advanced. Yet in some ways, you are more advanced than us, said Mira. Your bodies can do things ours cannot. You survive conditions that would kill us. Juwan had been quiet, studying the aliens carefully. He noticed how they moved slowly in Earth's gravity, how they stayed away from the fire, how they carefully filtered their air. You find our world dangerous, he said suddenly, but we find it beautiful. It's all in what you're used to. Mira was about to answer when her communication device made a sound. Her face showed worry as she listened to the message. What's wrong? Asked Bora. My commander is sending another team to find us, said Mira. But they are not scientists. They are soldiers, and they may not understand that you are friendly. The peaceful mood at the camp vanished. Juwan immediately stood up, his military training taking over. How long do we have? he asked. Mira looked at the stars. They will be here by morning. The research station sat in a small clearing. It was a simple building with solar panels on the roof and a tall radio antenna. Han, Bora, Juwan, and Mira watched it from the edge of the forest. 2 military jeeps were parked outside. Soldiers in Korean army uniforms stood guard. "How do we get past them?" whispered Bora. Juwan studied the soldiers. "Those are regular army, not special forces. They're here to secure the area, not hunt aliens. We could try to talk to them," suggested Han. "And say what? Hello, we have an alien with us. Please don't shoot." Bora shook her head. Mira had been quiet, but now she spoke. "My team member Zell might be inside. My tracking device shows a signal from there." "One of your scientists made it to the station?" asked Juwan. "Yes. Zell was the fastest of us. If he reached the station, he might have equipment we can use." Just then, they heard the sound of engines. From the other side of the clearing, 3 black vehicles appeared. Men in dark uniforms jumped out. They wore helmets and carried bigger guns than the regular soldiers. "Special forces," said Juwan. "Now we have a real problem." As they watched, the special forces began talking with the regular soldiers. There seemed to be an argument about who was in charge. "This is our chance," said Juwan. "While they're distracted, we can circle around to the back of the station." They moved carefully through the trees, keeping low. When they reached the back of the building, they found a door. It was locked, but Mira had a small device that opened it quickly. Inside, the station was cool and quiet. Computer screens showed maps and weather data, and there, sitting at one of the computers, was Zell. The young alien scientist looked up in surprise. "Mira, you're alive." He rushed to his team leader. "I thought everyone was captured." "Not yet," said Mira. "Have you contacted the ship?" "I tried, but Earth's communications are primitive. I need—" Zell stopped as they heard footsteps outside. "Someone's coming." They barely had time to hide before the door opened. A Special Forces soldier stepped in, scanning the room with his gun ready. He walked slowly between the desks, checking each corner. Juwan, hidden behind a cabinet, looked at Han and nodded. They had to act. Juwan stepped out and said clearly, "Don't shoot. We're civilians." The soldier turned quickly, his gun pointed at Juwan. "Don't move. Hands up." Han and Bora also stood up, hands raised. The soldier spoke into his radio. "3 civilians found in the station. Bringing them out." "What about the aliens?" asked a voice on the radio. The soldier looked around again. No sign-off. That's when Mira and Zell stepped out from their hiding place. The soldier's eyes went wide. His gun moved toward them. "No," shouted Juwan. He jumped forward faster than the soldier expected and pushed the gun aside. The soldier tried to fight back, but Juwan was stronger. In seconds, Juwan had taken the gun and pushed the soldier against the wall. "We don't want to hurt anyone," said Juwan. "We just want to talk." More footsteps sounded outside. They were surrounded. "We need to leave," said Bora urgently. "No more running," said Han. "It's time to show both sides what we can do together." Outside, the commander of the Special Forces team was giving orders to storm the building when the door opened. Juwan walked out first, his hands up. Behind him came Han and Bora. Then, to everyone's shock, came 2 aliens. "Hold your fire," shouted Han. "They are peaceful visitors." The soldiers raised their guns. The commander stepped forward. "Step away from the aliens. They are to be taken into custody." "No," said Juwan firmly. "They are under our protection." Just then, a loud sound came from above. Everyone looked up. A large ship was hovering over the clearing. Captain Sorrel's ship. A bright light appeared beneath it, and 5 figures materialized on the ground. Sorrel and 4 soldiers in powered armor, all holding weapons. "The humans will surrender the traitor scientists," announced Coral. This planet is now under Galactic Federation quarantine. That's when things went wrong. One of Chloral's soldiers stepped forward. The ground, still wet from yesterday's rain, gave way under his heavy armor. He fell, and his weapon fired by accident. A bolt of energy hit a tree, setting it on fire. A human soldier fired back. The shot hit an alien's armor but didn't penetrate. "Stop!" shouted Han, stepping between the two groups. "No one needs to die today." But Captain Xoral raised his weapon. "This ends now." Before he could fire, another ship appeared in the sky above. Larger than Xoral's, it cast a shadow over the entire clearing. "Captain Xoral," boomed a voice from the ship, "you will stand down immediately." By order of Commander Tarek. The morning sun had just started to rise when they heard it, a low humming sound from above. Everyone looked up. A dark shape moved across the early morning sky, much larger than Mira's small science ship. "That's Captain Xoral's vessel," said Mira, her voice tight with worry. "We need to leave now." "Why?" asked Han. "Aren't they your people?" "Yes, but Captain Xoral doesn't see new species the way scientists do," explained Mira. "He thinks of unknown aliens, like you, as potential threats to be controlled." Juwan was already packing their things. "What will he do if he finds us?" "He will take you for study. He will erase your memories of meeting us, and he might hurt you if you resist." Bora looked shocked. "But we've done nothing wrong." "In his eyes, you are dangerous simply because you survive on this planet," said Mira. She looked at her team. "We must help the humans. This contact was our mistake." The aliens quickly packed their equipment. They moved slowly under Earth's heavy gravity, struggling with even simple tasks. Juwan noticed how their breathing seemed difficult, how their thin limbs shook with effort. "You can barely move in our gravity," he said. "How dangerous can your soldiers be?" "They will have powered armor," said Taro. "Machines that make them stronger." "And weapons," added Zell. "Energy weapons that can stun or kill." The group hurried away from the camp, moving deeper into the forest. But they didn't get far before a bright light flashed from above. A large ship, shaped like an arrow, hovered over the trees. A beam of light shot down, and 5 figures appeared on the ground ahead of them. They were aliens like Mira, but wore black armor that covered their bodies. The armor made them taller and wider. Their helmets had dark glass that hid their faces. Each carried a weapon that looked like a small silver tube. "Stop where you are," ordered the one in front, his voice hard and cold. "Science Officer Mira, you have broken contact protocol. Your team will return to the ship immediately." "Captain Xoral," said Mira, stepping forward. "These humans are peaceful. They mean no harm." Xoral looked at the humans. His helmet turned to scan each of them. "They are primitives from a death world. They must be contained and studied." Han stepped forward. "We are not primitives. We can talk. We can understand each other." "Silence," said Xoral. 2 of his soldiers moved toward the humans. "You will come with us for examination." "No," said Juwan, moving in front of his friends. "We will not." The soldiers reached for Juwan. Their armor made them nearly as tall as he was, but when they tried to grab him, Juwan moved quickly. Years of military training took over. He grabbed one soldier's arm and pulled. The soldier, not expecting the human to be so strong, fell forward. Juwan turned and pushed the second soldier hard. Despite the powered armor, the soldier flew backward and hit a tree. Everyone froze in shock. "How did he do that?" one soldier asked, his voice shaking. "The armor should make us stronger than any primitive." "You don't understand," said Mira to Captain Xoral. "Humans have evolved on a high-gravity world. Their natural strength is incredible to us. The powered armor only makes your soldiers equal to a human, not stronger." Xoral raised his weapon. "Then we will use more direct methods." "Run!" shouted Juwan to Han and Bora. He grabbed Mira's arm, knowing she couldn't move fast enough on her own, and pulled her with him. The other aliens from the science team scattered into the trees. Thorol fired his weapon. A bolt of blue energy hit a tree, leaving a black mark. Capture the humans and arrest the science team for treason. Han, Bora, Juwan, and Mira ran through the forest. Behind them, the soldiers followed, their armor making loud sounds as they pushed through the trees. But the armor that was supposed to make them stronger also made them slow and clumsy on the uneven ground. "This way," said Juwan, pulling the group toward a small stream. "We need to reach the valley. There are caves where we can hide." As they ran, dark clouds gathered above. The air grew heavy and wet. "I think it's going to rain," said Bora. "Rain?" asked Mira, sounding worried. "Water falling from the sky." "Yes," said Han. "Is that a problem?" "For us, yes," said Mira. "Very few planets have open water falling freely. Our equipment and bodies are not made for it." The first drops of rain began to fall. Behind them, they heard the soldiers shouting in confusion as water hit their armor and helmets. "Then the rain might save us," said Juwan with a grim smile. "Welcome to Earth, where even the weather is on our side." The rain fell harder, turning the forest floor into mud. Han, Bora, Juwan, and Mira pushed through wet bushes and slippery rocks. Water dripped from their hair and clothes, but only the humans seemed unbothered by it. "How much farther to these caves?" asked Mira. She was shivering, her thin body not made for the cold rain. Even with the protection of her suit, she was struggling. "Maybe 2 kilometers," said Juwan. He looked back at the alien scientist with concern. "Can you make it?" "I must," she said simply. "If Captain Thorol catches us, you will become test subjects, not friends." Behind them, they could hear the soldiers calling to each other. The sounds were growing more distant. The aliens in their powered armor were having trouble in the rain and mud. "Their equipment isn't made for this," explained Mira as they moved forward. "Water can damage our technology, and they aren't used to moving on such uneven ground." "Earth is giving us a home field advantage," said Han with a small smile. They reached a fast-moving stream swollen with rainwater. To the humans, it was a challenging but manageable obstacle. To Mira, it looked terrifying. "We have to cross this?" she asked, her 4 eyes wide with fear. "Yes," said Juwan. "The caves are on the other side. Water does not flow freely on my world," said Mira. I do not know how to cross moving water." Juwan thought for a moment. "I'll carry you." Before Mira could protest, Juwan picked her up. She was surprisingly light in his arms, maybe 30 kilograms, like carrying the human child. Her body was cool to the touch, and he could feel her trembling. "Hold tight," he told her. Then he stepped into the rushing water. The current was strong against his legs, but Juwan moved carefully, testing each step. Han and Bora followed close behind. For the humans, this was difficult but not impossible. They had crossed streams before. "Your strength is remarkable," said Mira quietly as they reached the other side. "On my world, no one could carry another adult like this." "On Earth, it's nothing special," said Juwan, setting her down gently. Captain Thorol was furious. His team had lost track of the humans and the traitor scientist Mira. The rain was interfering with their tracking equipment, and the forest seemed to fight against them at every step. "This planet is trying to kill us," complained one soldier as he pulled his boot from the mud for the 10th time. "Keep moving," ordered Thorol. "Those primitives cannot escape us. They don't have our technology." "But sir," said another soldier, "they move through this environment so easily. And that one human fought off 2 of us without any weapons. They are animals adapted to a harsh world," said Thorol. "Nothing more. Their strength means nothing against our superior minds and technology." Just then, Thorol's communicator beeped. "Captain, this is base team. The storm is interfering with our sensors. We've lost your exact position. Send reinforcements," ordered Thorol. "I want search teams covering every part of these mountains." Yes, sir. But Commander Tarek is asking for updates. He wants to know why a simple extraction has become a pursuit. Tell the commander that his pet scientists have betrayed us, snapped Floral. They are helping dangerous primitives escape. I will handle this my way. By nightfall, the humans and Mira had reached the caves. They were cold, wet, and tired, but safe for the moment. Juwan found a dry spot deep enough in the cave to build a small fire. The warm light filled the space, creating long shadows on the rock walls. We should be safe here for the night, said Juwan. Those soldiers won't be able to search well in the dark. Don't be so sure, said Mira. Our species sees better in darkness than yours. It's one advantage we have. Han was helping Bora dry her wet clothes by the fire. So they can see in the dark, but they're afraid of water, weak in our gravity, and their equipment doesn't work well in our environment, he summarized. I'd say we're still ahead. For now, said Mira. But Floral will call for reinforcements. More ships, more soldiers. And they will have better equipment for Earth conditions. Bora sat close to the fire, warming her hands. What do they want from us? Why can't they just talk to us like you did? Fear, said Mira simply. Fear of the unknown. Of creatures who can survive on a world that would kill most galactic citizens. She looked into the fire, her 4 eyes reflecting the flames. And perhaps a little jealousy too. Jealousy? Asked Han. Your bodies are strong. Your world is rich with resources. You have adapted to conditions that would break our technology. Mira looked at each of the humans. You may see yourselves as less advanced because we have spaceships. But in many ways, you are far beyond us. The morning sun lit up the mountain path. Han Do-jun, Kim Bora, and Park Juwan had been hiking for 5 hours. Juwan walked easily, but Han and Bora were tired. They stopped by a small stream to rest. How much farther? Asked Han, drinking water from his bottle. Juwan checked the map. Maybe 2 more hours. We're getting close to where you think the signal came from. Bora sat on a rock, rubbing her sore feet. I hope this isn't a waste of time. It's still a nice hike, said Juwan with a smile. But his eyes were scanning the trees and rocks around them. Since morning, he had felt that something was wrong. The forest was too quiet. No birds sang. No animals moved in the bushes. It was as if the wildlife knew something was here that didn't belong. Let's keep moving, he said, helping Bora to her feet. I want to reach the top before dark. Inside the hidden alien base, alarms were going off. 3 humans are approaching, said Taro, looking at the screens. They'll be here in 2 hours. Mira felt a wave of panic. This was not part of the plan. They were supposed to observe from a distance, not make contact. We need to move the base, she said. Pack everything. We'll find a new location on the other side of the mountain. The team started to dismantle their equipment. They worked as fast as they could in Earth's heavy gravity, but they were not used to physical work. They moved slowly and clumsily. The main power unit is overheating, warned Zell. The cooling system can't handle Earth's atmosphere. Mira checked the readings. The power unit was getting dangerously hot. If it failed, their cloaking technology would stop working. The humans would see them. Hurry, she urged her team. We don't have much time. Juwan stopped suddenly, holding up his hand. Han, and Bora froze. What is it? Whispered Han. I'm not sure, said Juwan. I thought I saw something up ahead. A flash of light where there shouldn't be one. He took a small pair of binoculars from his pocket and looked up the slope. For a moment, he saw nothing unusual. Then, for just a second, he saw it again, a strange shimmer in the air, like heat waves but more solid. There's something there, he said. Something hidden. Bora took out her phone. The signal detector app that Han had made was showing strong readings. The signal is coming from right where you're looking, she said, her voice shaking with excitement. Han grabbed his backpack. Let's go see. Wait, said Juwan, putting a hand on his friend's shoulder. "We don't know what's up there. Let me go first." Inside the alien base, disaster struck. The power unit made a high-pitched sound and then shut down. The cloaking field collapsed. The small ship that had been hidden by advanced technology now stood fully visible on the mountainside. "We've lost all power," shouted Zell. "The backup systems are failing too." Mira looked at the screens. The three humans were less than half a kilometer away. They had certainly seen the ship now. "Commander Tarek," she called through her communicator. "We have an emergency. Our position is exposed. Requesting immediate extraction." The communicator crackled with static. "Cannot reach your position. Atmospheric interference. Stand by." Mira made a quick decision. "We can't leave before our ship is fixed, and we can't hide anymore." She looked at her team's worried faces. "Prepare for first contact." Juwan couldn't believe his eyes. Where there had been nothing but trees and rocks moments before, now stood a silver object about the size of a small bus. It had no wheels or windows, just smooth metal that seemed to glow from within. That's not from Earth," said Han, his voice barely a whisper. "It's beautiful," said Bora. As they watched, a section of the silver surface slid open. A ramp extended to the ground. And then something moved in the darkness inside the ship. A figure stepped onto the ramp. It was about the size of a human child, but thin and clearly not human. Its skin was pale with a pattern of small scales. It had 4 eyes that blinked nervously in the sunlight. It wore some kind of tight suit that covered most of its body. The alien raised a hand in what seemed like a greeting. "Hello," it said in perfect Korean, though the voice sounded mechanical. "I am Science Officer Mira of the Galactic Federation. We come in peace." Han, Bora, and Juwan stood frozen in shock. Then, to everyone's surprise, Juwan stepped forward and raised his own hand in greeting. "Hello," he said simply. "Welcome to Earth." The mountain air was cool and fresh. Science Officer Mira and her team had set up their hidden base inside a small cave. Special screens hid them from human eyes. The team had been on Earth for 3 days now. 3 hard, painful days. "I can barely move in this gravity," complained Zell, the youngest team member. His thin legs shook as he walked around their small camp. "How do humans run and jump? I saw children playing yesterday." Children. Running. Mira checked the readings on her pad. Their bodies evolved on this planet. Their bones and muscles are much denser than ours. What would crush us is normal for them. Officer Taro pointed to his screen. "Look at these readings from the city. The humans are walking around in direct sunlight. The radiation levels would cause severe burns on our skin." "They even seem to enjoy it," said Mira, showing images of humans lying on blankets under the harsh sun. "They call it sunbathing. They do it for pleasure." The alien team watched with a mix of horror and respect as their screens showed humans going about their daily lives. Humans carried heavy things without machines. They drank water filled with minerals that would poison most galactic species. They ate plants and animals with complex chemical compounds. "They are either the toughest species we've ever found or completely insane," said Zell. Just then, their alarms beat softly. The weather sensors had picked up a change. "A storm is coming," said Taro, looking worried. "Strong winds, heavy rain, possible lightning." "Surely the humans will evacuate," said Zell. The team watched their screens as dark clouds gathered over Seoul. Rain began to fall. Wind bent the trees. And the humans simply opened small devices called umbrellas or put on raincoats and continued with their day. "They just keep going," whispered Mira in amazement. "This planet throws deadly water from the sky, and they barely notice." Han Do-jun spread the map on his kitchen table. Kim Bora looked over his shoulder while eating a sandwich. "The signal came from somewhere in these mountains," Han said, pointing to an area outside Seoul. "If we hike up here, we might be able to get better readings." "That's at least a 2-day trip," said Bora. "And neither of us is good at hiking." Han smiled. That's why I called Park Juan. As if on cue, there was a knock at the door. Han opened it to reveal a broad-shouldered man with short black hair and a friendly smile. Park Juan was carrying a large backpack that looked heavy, but he held it like it was nothing. So, said Juan after they explained everything, you two think you found aliens, and you want me to take you into the mountains to look for them. He laughed, just like when we were kids, always chasing strange stories. This is real, insisted Han, playing the recording. These signals are not from Earth. Juan listened carefully. His smile faded. Before joining the army, he had trained as an engineer. He knew enough to recognize that this signal was unusual. Let's say I believe you, he said slowly. Why not tell the government? And let them take over, said Bora. We want to make contact ourselves first, just to see. Then we'll tell everyone. Juan thought for a moment. I have 3 days off from the tour company. If we leave tomorrow morning, we can reach the area your signal came from by nightfall. Han and Bora looked at each other with excitement. Pack only what you need, said Juan. Food, water, warm clothes. The weather report says it might rain tomorrow, but it should clear up by evening. As his friends gathered their gear, Juan looked at the map again. Something about this felt strange. In his years as a soldier, he had developed a sense for danger. This trip would not be as simple as his friends thought. From their hidden base, Mira's team did not notice the new signal their equipment sent out. A brief power surge had caused their cloaking system to flicker. It was just for a second, but it was long enough for Han's sensitive equipment to detect. And it was long enough for a military satellite passing overhead to notice something unusual in the mountains outside Seoul. In orbit above Earth, Commander Tarek received 2 messages at the same time. One from Mira about the humans' incredible ability to survive in harsh conditions, and one from his ship's computer about a security breach at the observation site. The commander looked at the blue planet below with growing concern. This mission was getting complicated. The first human-alien cooperation teams start training next week, she said, reading from her tablet. Juan's program has been approved. He'll be teaching aliens how to survive in harsh environments. Who would have thought? Said Han with a smile. Earth was considered a death trap, and now everyone wants to learn from the crazy humans who live there. Mira joined them at the window. After a year working closely with humans, she moved more confidently in Earth-like gravity. She had even visited the planet's surface several times, though she still needed a special suit. The Federation Council has officially changed Earth's classification, she told them. No longer deadly/avoid. Now it's Cradle of Resilience. I like that, said Han. He watched as a Federation ship prepared to land on Earth, carrying new visitors eager to learn from the Death World dwellers who had turned their harsh planet's challenges into strengths. Humans, said Mira with her alien version of a smile, teaching the galaxy that sometimes the most dangerous planets produce the most remarkable friends. The end.